Hi everyone, I'm Yuan. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk about my GSoC experience at AsyncAPI. I'm really happy to share my thoughts and help other potential contributors or developers to participate in AsyncAPI. So let's get started. So who am I? My name is Yuan. I'm currently studying data science and CS as a master's student at the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. I'm a full stack developer and also a LLM researcher, for which I have been working on a couple papers where that would be published to submitted to top AI conferences. And I have previous startup experience. I was previously a founding engineer at Penn Venture Lab, where we worked on a financial analytic platforms for small to medium-sized business owners. I'm also a big cat and dog lover. I love them all, and also I'm a big, huge movie fan. I really like Andrei Tarkovsky and Martin Scorsese. So this is me. The purpose of this presentation is to first share my wonderful experience at AsyncAPI during the summer of 2024. Second, to show how I get involved in AsyncAPI initiative for other people who might also be interested. Third, I want to share the life of a maintainer at AsyncAPI, like what we do, what we talk about, how we promote the purpose and progress of the Async API. And last but not least, I want to share what I have learned from both the Async API and the GSoC experience. So let's start with the question of what is GSoC, which is a abbreviation for Google Summer of Code. It is a program that Google organizes everywhere that aims to motivate developers to begin participating in open source software development. It is also to help open source projects to bring in new developers into their communities. The program usually lasts for a summer. Developers can stay in the open source project after the program ends if they want to, but people can also leave anytime once the program ends. So it really depends on the developers and the needs of the open source project. Async API is one of the participating open source project in the summer of 2024, which is when I participate. How did I get involved in the GSoC program? Of course. How did I get involved with the Async API initiative? Through the GSoC, of course, but it is not only that. Before the GSoC program started, there is a 1 month period where developers need to communicate with the open source projects to express their interest in the project and also make initial contributions. I had to express my interest in the GitHub issues. Sometimes I need to solve some first issues, and sometimes I also need to like communicate with the developers and maintainers in the projects before the GSoC program started. So it's not like you just signed up for the program and you got assigned a open source project by somebody. So here's an example of my initial involvement at Async API. So Lucas opened a issue in the generator repository. I found that out, and then he asked anyone who is interested to complete a template tutorial, and then link their repository to this GitHub issue, which is what I did. I did that, and then Lucas reviewed it. And also, I showed my interest in the GitHub issues by talking about generator repository and not talking about some questions I had when I was doing the tutorial. So when that's over, and then I was accepted into the program and I started working with Lucas over the summer. So unlike most other like GSoC projects where mentees and mentors work together on a single coding project, Lucas guided Minchu and me to become the maintainers of the repository. It means that for our daily task, we each need to do different kinds of things instead of just coding. right? We need to resolve the issues of the generator repository. We need to help review the pull request. We need to discuss the repository's next steps for technical maintenance and development. And we also need to communicate with other development departments of Async API organization about our announcements and collaborations issue. So the good thing about this is that you get to experience what developing in a team is like, right? Not only need to write codes, you also need to talk to other people, understand the objective of the team, understand the objectives of other teams, right? Because that's what working in a team is like, collaboration and communication. This experience really prepares me for working in a corporate environment or some other open source environment. So it is a great learning experience. And to show you what I mean, I will give you some examples in the following slides. So here is an example of an issue resolution at Async API. No override globes is one of the first issues that I worked on. It basically just allows users to specify what files to ignore during the file generation, so the files will not be overwritten. Writing the codes is straightforward because the feature is very straightforward, right? There's not really that much complexity in the technical sense. So to be honest, writing the codes only takes me about a couple of days, going back and forth with in terms of different things. But as you can see, the issue was created on February 22nd, and it was closed in July 30th. That's about 5 months of time. So a lot of those times was spent on discussing and waiting for a response. You need to, before I actually started coding, I need to talk to Lucas and talk to other people about how this idea should be implemented, right? We want to agree on an implementation, agree on the implementation details before I went ahead and start coding. So about 90% of that 5 months was spent on this kind of discussion. Only about 5% was spent on code, writing codes, and maybe 5% on reviewing the codes. So in other than resolving issues, reviewing pull requests is also a big part of my job. For example, this pull request was authored by Ayush, which introduced non-jack filters to the generator repository. Similarly, there were a lot of discussions in the review about what should be deleted, what should be added, and what should be modified. But different from resolving an issue, in pull requests, reading and understanding other people's codes is also very important. This is an example of the code review part of the pull request review. As you can see, it shows you the changes in the codes, like what you need to understand. When you understand is that you need to understand what these changes mean. And you need to go into the codes and see what those changes might lead to, right? You don't want to have really unexpected outcomes because of certain changes. So we, as maintainers of the repository, we need to go into these coding details of the pull request and understand the whole thing, understand what other people did and why they did it. This is another example of like what we did as a maintainer, which is about discussing the next step for the repository. As contributor, you can just focus on the codes and the pull requests, like what we did, like what I have shown you. But as maintainer, you need to do more than that. You need to think about what is the priority of the repository. What is the most important feature that we need to work on right now? What is the issue that we need to resolve that which is more important than other issues in the list of issues we have. So having these kind of conversations, talking about the next step is really important for maintainers at Async API. Last but not least, communicating with other departments. Async API is not just a single team of coders and developers, right? we have different repositories or their generator. We have Modelina, we have like a bunch of other things, and different repositories have different maintainers and contributors be responsible for, right? We need to, and sometimes if we want to collaborate with them, we need to communicate with them. But even outside of coding, we also need Async API also has marketing team, has community team, whom we need to communicate and talk to in terms of different things. And this image here shows an example where we were trying to deprecate some of the files in the generator repository, and we want to communicate that announcement to our users so that nobody gets into trouble because of this, right? So communicate with other teams, telling others what we are doing right now, and helping others is really important as for maintainers. The same thing, important things to do for maintainers of Async API. So in summary, as maintainers, there are like four basic things I need to do: the code resolution, the issue resolution, pull request review, discussion of the repository's future, and the communication with the rest of the team. Reflecting upon my experience, I think the key to be successful in the Async API is first communication. Communication. You need to be able to communicate what you mean and be able to understand what other people are saying. Of course, you need to be technically capable, right? If you don't understand JavaScript, you just can't. It's really, really hard for you to contribute as a coder. You can contribute in other ways, but if you want to contribute as a developers, you need to be technically capable, or you need to want to be technically capable, meaning that you want to learn. So, but still, other than that, communication is very important. And then execution is also really important. You want to be able to deliver works on time. If otherwise, if you are not reliable and people can expect you to like finish coding on time, then you might not be able to work on some of the most important tasks of the repository. But other than these skills or things, requirements, I think the most important thing to be successful in Async API is passion about open source projects. You need to love open source and love coding in order to go through all of this, to be able to help, in order to go through all of this and to make this project a success. Um, Otherwise, some of this boring stuff might just be too much for people who are not really genuinely interested in this kind of projects. However, if you love open source, if you love coding, and you love seeing a product that you work on improve other people's lives, then you're in the right place. Open source projects are perfect for you. So, so now I'm really interested. How do I get involved? You can join through programs like GSoC. GSoC is held every year. Usually the applications for open source projects starts in March. Async API Initiative also has a mentorship program. So if you are interested, you should check that out. Talk to the mentors, see how you can help. And you can also just get started now, like we have a lot of issues in the list of issues where it has a tag like good first issue. Those issues tend to be great starting point for people to contribute codes to the Async API. You can, as there's a screenshot of one of such issue, you can see that there's a good first issue tag. You can find similar issues like that and then just start from there. You can ask questions in the issues and share your thoughts. You can also you can talk to us in those kind of issues and yeah, just participate and share any ideas you might have. We love having conversations. We love um, helping new people to get on board. But there's one thing you need to be aware though. You don't want to open a pull request only unless you have asked in the issue and it's granted permission by us. This is solely for the purpose of organizing pull requests and contributions, not mean to discourage anyone from contributing. You can also join our Slack. We have Slack channels for Async API, and everyone is welcome to come join us and share your interests. And if you have any questions about the codes, have any questions about how to use Async API, Slack is also the place for you to ask these kind of questions. We love seeing these kind of questions, and we love having conversations. So that's it. That's my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. Here's my contact information if anyone wants to get in touch. Feel free to email me or send me LinkedIn message. I am more than happy to help. Thank you so much and have a great day.